Today's guest is Jennifer Bonner. She's the Senior Vice President of Client Delivery at RIVA Solutions. Jenny is a graduate of the ACT-IAC Partners in 2023. It's a leadership development program. And she was recently honored by OrangeSlices AI as a 2024 Engage Federal Citizen Services Honoree. Jenny and I have met through our shared interest and participation in the ACT-IAC Fellows Network. And so, Jenny, I'm really happy to talk to you today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I've watched, I think, all of your podcasts, so I was definitely fortunate to be selected and excited to be here. So,
well, then you know the question. For those who don't know you or have had a chance to network with you and get to know you personally, talk about where you're from, who you are, and what you do.
Sure. Yeah. So I was actually born in Texas, so Houston, Texas, when I was young, and moved around a lot before I was 6. And ended up in Virginia. So I'm actually what I consider a local, right? Chantilly, Virginia, went to high school there. And yeah, so a lot about me is really I've grown up. In college, I worked. I made it a point to really focus on people and interactions. So when I went to school, I actually started at Indiana University. Right. And when I chose that school, it was because it was familiar, right? My mom was a grad, my dad was a grad, my brother was a grad, my sister was a grad. And it definitely was there. However, an interesting fact about me is that my degree is not from Indiana University. So I went through the business school, but I'm a huge family person. And my husband was my high school sweetheart as well, was at WVU, and I actually came home and finished up at Mason. So my degree's in marketing from George Mason University, so in the business school there. And I started working, and every quarter I would get a new job. I worked at Office Depot, I worked at Kroger, I developed computer-based training manuals, and really just kind of tried to develop a lot of different avenues. One, interviewing, and two, going in and trying to understand the different business lines. But ultimately, what I've figured out was that I do people. That's what I do, right? The jobs that I didn't really enjoy had very little interaction, right? I didn't really get to work with the users or the stakeholders. I didn't get to help grow and maintain and foster growth. And so when I graduated, I actually worked for Telelink Communications, and I trained people on phone systems. So a lot of those inter-office phone systems, and went all over the DC metro area doing that. But at the same time, my mom had her own company. She had her own woman-owned IT small business doing all government contracting. And she had a head recruiter at the time. I didn't want to work for my mom right out of school because I didn't want that, hey, you just got a job, right? Because your mom owned the company. And for all that know her, she was harder on me than probably anybody, and still is. But I met they were hiring for a recruiter, and he was heading up all of talent, and he's like, I want her. Right. So I interviewed and I worked in that form, in that role. I started as a recruiter for my mom's company, List Innovative Solutions. And that was a trajectory because it was a small business. I had my hand in everything. I did recruiting, I did purchasing, my background and degrees in marketing and graphic design. So I did a lot of proposals and really got exposure to running a business, right? Everything from the entrepreneurial perspective, right? It's in my genes. But I really had to do a lot in the time that I was working there. And then she ended up selling her company to Salient Federal. And it was an interesting pivotal moment, right? Because it's not a family business. So, and because I had done so much, I had to figure out what that path was. And as I was moving into Salient right after the acquisition, they were saying, hey, well, you've got all these things. What do you want to focus on? And I love delivery, right? It was account management and mapping talent and driving talent to our customers. In a way. So I actually it was a pivotal moment that I had to pick. Do I want to go into marketing, and do I want to go into that path, or do I want to go, in the delivery, really customer facing, working with people and aligning, building high performing teams, which is what I do. And so I chose that. And I was actually there for 5 years. So I worked predominantly overseeing OPM and patent and trade, and a lot of our federal civilian work, just collaborating with a lot of the leaders. And what's interesting is I was there and I wasn't really looking, but I had done a lot of people management, but my IT background and everything I'd done in IT, I hadn't really run a very large scale IT program.
Hmm.
So it was interesting because I thought, okay, well, this is a challenge. And I got contacted by a recruiter and they said, hey, I got this position, I think you'd be really good for it. And I said, oh, okay. Like it was a gap of mine, right? I hadn't managed like a very, very large scale IT program in an agile fashion, right? So it was actually within CMS. So it was to run the back end of the Affordable Care Act. So which was incredible. So I took the risk, right? And it turns out I'm actually really good at running modernization and IT programs. But I took the job because I wanted to prove that I could do something that I deemed maybe a weakness or a gap in my capabilities that I was asking other people to do.
Hmm.
So I ended up taking that job and I worked there for at least it was 3.5 years and learned a lot, built out a whole entire delivery org, again, really mapping people's strengths, mentoring, a lot of promotions within, had a fairly large portfolio. And I ended up leaving there in 21, took a little bit of time off to spend time with my kids. I have a 7 and a 10-year-old now. They keep me busy. And then I went to work I got short stint at MetroStar, right? Great company, doing management work and proposals and capture and a lot of things. And again, back to the people comment, it just wasn't enough people interaction. I had an amazing team, but the scale and the magnitude, it just didn't align. And I also was not looking, but and a recruiter sent me a thing and I said, this job was written for me. I can make an impact. RIVA had grown, tripled in size over the past 3 years prior to me joining. So there was a lot of process and procedures that existed, but needed to be really fine-tuned and built out to be able to scale because we're continuing to grow more and more. So, and so the team that I have now looks very different than the team that I got, 2.5 years ago. Grateful for everything that team brought as we grew, and then it shifted. Right, we have a different model, and so. But I've made an impact. My team continues to make an impact, but I've always focused on the people and the collaboration, and I don't believe in walls. So, efficiency and breaking down any wall that exists by having a conversation. So is what I stand for. But I guess that's maybe a short answer, but I could go on and on forever. But
So interesting. Did you find it difficult when you took a year off, or because you had good network connections, you were able to jump right back in?
so I actually took like 4 months
Oh,
off.
okay.
So not a year. But I did have a lot of connections, and I did have a lot of amazing opportunities put in front of me, right? And it was hard to choose, right? Because they were connections that I knew, they knew of my work. It was actually humbling, right? That, I had a lot to really in front of me, right? When I decided to really make a decision. And I don't know, it was very flattering and humbling. But I don't sit still. A lot of people know that about me either. So constantly trying to continue to move the needle for myself, but most importantly, my people, the people that work for me. Yeah, so it wasn't too hard. I'd love to sit and just play golf all day. That would be nice every day, but I try to bake that in here and there. But I did a lot of that when I was off for 3-4 months. So
Yeah. So you mentioned multiple times that you came upon your job from a recruitment,
Mhm.
and that's atypical, I think. I know a lot of people who have to just go apply and apply and apply and apply, look for different companies. Um, is what did you use some sort of service? How were you found by recruiters?
Actually, both instances were through LinkedIn.
Okay.
Interesting enough, they were just messages sent via, I wasn't connected with these recruiters, but they reached out. And it was very enticing, but I'm very focused on the impact, right? And what the mission is and the culture of an organization. And then honestly, it's just taking time, probably sometimes to my own deficit of sacrificing some of my own time. I don't have a, oh no, I can't talk to you right now, right? So it's been something I've had to work on and prioritize, right? Is that I will stop and talk to people in the street. I'll talk to them in the grocery store, and building those connections and connecting people has allowed me those, they just see it and then they reach out. And sometimes they get responses. And in my case, I guess for two of them, they did get responses that were actually life altering changes for me. So, and I will never turn down a conversation. I recommend that to everybody. Just talk to people, learn where they're from, learn what they do. You might find that there's something that they're doing that you're like, that's amazing. I'd love to do that. Right. So,
That's great advice. That's, yeah. Whenever somebody's talking about a possible role, right? Say, sure, I'll have a conversation. I'm not looking, but sure, let's have a conversation.
yeah,
And I heard a friend of mine recently say, and then that conversation turned into two, and then it turned into three. And next thing I know, I was working for them, and I didn't really plan it.
yeah. It's so true. And not only that, it gives me an opportunity if there is a really cool role and they've clearly made an impact by getting me to respond,
Mhm.
right? So I want to know, what are they looking for? Because I probably know somebody as well that would be a great fit.
Mm.
And so that to me is, again, that connecting people and dots. And I just connect constantly. There's enough money to go around, enough contracts to go around, right? It's just, yeah, you'd be great for this role, right? I know they're hiring, I know they're doing this, or you'd be great for this customer, right? Your skill set and how you align to that mission. It's just connecting those pieces that I love. So
That's awesome. So looking back, what's something that we do in our industry or in just DC area or wherever you're looking? What's something we do that you wish we didn't do quite the way we do that? There's improvement opportunity. And I'm not saying we're going to solve that problem in this conversation. We're going to just maybe talk about it, and maybe it's not even a problem. It's just an improvement opportunity. What might you suggest?
yeah, I think we're still afraid to have conversations,
Mm,
right? I think people tend to go in with a lot of assumptions, particularly in government industry. The partners program did open my eyes to that, right? We don't do enough of that, right? I think people are either scared, right? Or they don't know it's possible. They don't know what they can say, what they can't say. And I just think we need to have more conversations around what we're actually trying to implement collectively and then set actions, right? So
mm,
I know that that's also a pet peeve, right? Is you can talk a lot, right? But if you don't actually set action items in place and track them to completion. But I would say after going through that partners program, we need more of that. We need more because it's our taxpayer dollars. It's the inefficiencies in the users that we serve, whether it's the war fighter or it's somebody looking for healthcare, or we're trying to make things better, right? And I think there's still that border, right, that people just don't want to have conversations or they don't know how to pick up the phone, right,
yeah.
and call. I think we need to do much better. On the flip side too, I do think we need to put our phones down. So I think, a lot of people, whether you're present in a conversation, if your leaders are present in a conversation, are they on their phones or are they really looking at you and understanding?
Mm,
Because people have to do so many things these days and they're getting things done, family, personal life, whatever, work, it doesn't matter, but they're not listening, right? They hear you, but they're not like listening to what you say because they're on to the next thing or they're multitasking. And I think that's it's unfortunate. So
two excellent suggestions. So what's coming up for you in the near future?
I'm excited. We've got a pretty amazing team. We've made we slowed our growth engines at Riva for a little bit, just to really focus on that foundation. And so now it's starting to really skyrocket and we're going after a lot of different things. I'm really excited to bring in more talent. I'll always be tied to delivery. But what I see is more fusing how everything interacts from a people perspective, from people and culture to talent acquisition, which is where I got my start, right? So in recruiting, and then how that all plays into that bigger picture. um and I'm doing a lot of traveling. I'm excited. So I've been going all over. I just actually flew in from Atlanta today, so I've got teams all over. but I'm excited to see things grow. I'm excited for my people to continue to grow. We had a lot of promotions within RIVA last year, all internal, which I'm extremely proud of. We hire out when we need to, but we really do like to really promote and mentor and coach within. So either I guess work myself out of my job so somebody else can have it, right, and give them the opportunity. But I'm kind of excited where we are right now. So I see growth and I see opportunity. And then maybe someday I'll start my own company. So learning as much as I can.
Yeah, bring back that entrepreneurial spirit that you get from your mother.
Yeah. So yeah, it's coming, but I'm learning so much in the process, and I have. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, Jenny, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's great talking to you. I can't wait to see you at the next networking event and catch up there as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity again, and look forward to seeing other podcasts. So thank you so much.